Last week, Mr. Nothstein made some unsubstantiated accusations to which I decided at that moment, in an uncustomary fashion for me, to kind of bite my tongue and not respond immediately. But the fact is, he appears to have gone on the campaign trail against the non-candidate, quite frankly. He implied that I alone was responsible for the departure of 3 to 6 department heads due to their treatment. The facts are, I only recall 3 department heads that have left in the last year: elections, purchasing, and HR. 2 who publicly stated salary and thus a sense in their mind of not being appreciated, and specifically referring to myself and my colleague, Commissioner Arnold. The HR director left for reasons not at all associated with the accusations presented by Mr. Nothstein. Interesting, one of these individuals is already politicking to return to county employment in January 2023. Mr. Nothstein fails to recall the actions by the Board of Commissioners required the support of 2 commissioners, yet he decided to direct his comments only at me. I have broad shoulders that can bear the burden of my decisions and politically motivated accusations of a defamatory nature. With that said, I was proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with Commissioner Arner in supporting the findings of the salary study and not placing my popularity over doing what is in the best interest of all county employees, and specifically though in the lower tier of earnings, and of course in the best interest of the taxpayers of Carbon County. Mr. Nothstein went on to talk about intimidation. Look, I'm a mere 5'11" and 185 pounds, so I know it's not my physical prowess that intimidates. What I suspect he meant was I intimidate folks as a result of my constant display of passionate confidence that comes from the application of my American taxpayer-funded global education, training, leadership opportunities, my research and preparation for everything I do. Well, if so, or otherwise, I have no time for the insecurities of a few. I'm too busy focusing my time and energy on what is best for the remaining 64,000 plus residents of the county. Bear in mind, every resident, every county employee had the same opportunity I did as a 17-year-old to walk into that recruiting station at 197 South First Street in Lehighton and start down a path of extremely challenging self-improvement that built the capacity to not feel intimidated by others and to speak truthfully, candidly, persuasively, and passionately in a selfless effort to serve others. Mr. Nothstein then spoke about micromanagement of advisory boards that is resultants from my presence at their meetings, primarily as an observer. He mentions board or commission members resigning. I'd really like to know the names of those individuals. I know the Animal Shelter Advisory Commission chairs stepped down. Beyond that, I'm not familiar with other members, and I know specifically why both Frank and Terry stepped down. And my name was not mentioned. 4 boards, commissions I have a deep interest in and a physical presence at: Ag Land Preservation, Parks and Rec, Animal Shelter, and Planning. Nearly every one of these meetings are viewable and live streamed either on the Commissioner's Facebook page or on my C4 Commissioner page. I challenge my political enemies to find a moment that could be considered micromanagement. I do absolutely provide input at appropriate times and always clarify in my comments if my comments are simply a sense of the Board of Commissioners' position or my personal agenda and position. Do I confidently and passionately push an agenda? Absolutely. Ag land preservation, expanding county residents' investment in farm preservation, my agenda. Parks and Rec, prioritizing access opportunities to county residents and providing the highest quality outdoor recreational opportunity to county residents and visits, that's my agenda. Animal Shelter, a shelter that thrives and not just survives with the only realistic path forward to this is a public-private nonprofit partnership. That's my agenda. Planning Commission. Prevent degradation of our natural environment to include protecting our ridge lines and viewscapes from wind turbines, protecting our open space from solar farms when alternative formally developed locations are available, and that our comp plans aren't simply suggestions. That's my agenda, and I'll continue to push those agenda items. I challenge anyone to include board or commission members to contest my comments with facts or deny that my presence has not resulted in unequal visibility to their work, nor hasn't measurably advanced their influence to positively serve the interests of the residents of Carbon County to historical highs. And make no mistake, I push them to their tasks. Feel free to call that micromanagement, but without my presence, their opinions, their advisement, their influence would be greatly degraded, and so would suffer the residents of Carbon County because of my, what would be, lack of involvement. Mr. Nothstein declares in the most negative term, this county government isn't the military. You're right, Mr. Nothstein. County government is not the military. And let me share with you some aspects of the military that I witnessed in a rise from private to sergeant first class, from second lieutenant to full bird colonel over 34 years, that makes one long for a county government that is more like and incorporates the military's best practices, which are more often than not seen in America's most successful companies and organizations. A disciplined work ethic, clear chain of command, effective leadership, teamwork and collaboration, goal-oriented mindset, adaptability, resilience, attention to detail, effective communications, strategic planning and execution, regular performance evaluations, mentoring, information sharing and dissemination, a shared culture, subordinate development, employees and leaders who understand the organization's vision and roadmap. Just a few examples why county government needs to be more like the military. While I appreciate your concern with my reputation as a commissioner, I remind you that leadership is not a popularity contest. Unfortunately, you're confusing leadership with one popularity as a career politician and is short-sighted. As to my reputations, the words I hear from other than my political enemies and their ilk, so individuals like them, I'm described passionate, confident, endless energy, deals in facts, moral courage, takes ownership of successes and failures, a fighter, loyal, ethical, beyond reproach. You and folks like you are always on the campaign trail and will always attempt to diminish the reputation of those who threaten your fiefdom, that of your career politicians like yourself. Mr. Nothstein, stop faking that you are but a career politician who is threatened by change, by positive change that frankly folks like Rocky and I could bring forth at greater speed if it was not for your presence. Now with the Times News. It seems like the Times News, be it a journalist's decision or an editor's decision, wanted to leave out every single stated justification for the termination of the contract, of the election contractor that was stated. Again, might have been running short of column space, but none the fact, it created a lack of full context to a story and gave no context or understanding to why someone would support not terminating the contract. I continue to look at the statements I listed last week, the graphic on social media from that contractor, who I didn't share publicly, but was prepared to, as Mr. Nothstein opened the can of worms or Pandora box on this matter. I find it reprehensible that the Times News would fail to publish full context of a story. Importantly, in the book, The Elements of Journalism, from Tom Rosenstiel and Bill Kovach, they write, "The essence of journalism is a discipline of verification. That discipline is described as a scientific-like approach to getting the facts and also the right facts. This is a useful definition of verification." Not one comment that was made was questioned by the Times News, and it continues to be a history of their shortcoming in the profession of journalism. That's all I have.
I certainly didn't expect all of that. I expected some, but I would certainly disagree on the one issue about how many left, because the people aren't going to come up to you and tell you why they left to your face, unfortunately. I wish they would.